Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk about Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf! I was once told when I was in high school and had an afro that I looked very much like Shia LaBeouf when he had an afro and he was doing the Holes movie.
Yeah, he could have been his doppelganger like 20 years ago.
Oh, Shia LaBeouf. You know, I'm willing, Shia, if you watch this, I am totally willing to help you with your career. I will be your stunt double. I will follow you around to ensure that you don't get ridiculously drunk and
I think he probably already has people doing that type of stuff for him.
Well, they're not doing a very good job.
All right, so what are we really talking about?
The Battle of Shiloh, Johnny. It's one of our many Civil War battles that we're starting to slowly get around to doing. And this one is, it's a good one. It's a good one.
All right, and this takes place during which portion of the Civil War? Is this at the beginning?
Very early. This is early. This is early Western War.
Is it one of the first big major battles, or is it just early on?
Yeah, it's the first, one of the first largest battles in the West. Yeah, it's a very important battle, large battle. In the West, 1862.
Okay, but how far west? Because West is different back in Civil War days.
Tennessee.
Okay, yeah. yeah.
So
there's no confusion with people expecting us to be in Colorado or Utah or something.
No, we're in Tennessee.
Actual West. This is
early
colonial West.
This is Tennessee.
Okay, so we're in, I assume Shiloh's the name of the city we're in.
It's also called the Battle.
Yes.
It's also called the Battle of Pittsburgh Landing, and it's the first, like I said, large-scale engagement in the Western Theater. It will take place between April 6th and April 7th of 1862, when a confusing Union Army of Tennessee clashes against the properly named Confederate Army of the Mississippi. So don't let Army of Tennessee confuse you about being a Union Army.
Yeah, I was gonna. It did though. I was gonna ask about that.
Well, it's named the Army of the Tennessee because it's like its job is to take the Tennessee, so,
to go and conquer it.
So it should be the Army of conquering Tennessee or something along those lines to make it a little less confusing. So the Army of Tennessee, Johnny, it's going to be led by none other than the U.S. Grant with 44,894 men underneath his command.
Okay,
we're going to start this off our normal thing, Johnny. Can you guess his occupation? And I'll give you a
hint.
Civil
engineer.
Well, that's the one thing that he wasn't, actually. I was like, guess anything, and you probably get it right, but that's the one thing he wasn't. Johnny, he has a failed military career where he resigned in 1853 due to his drunkenness.
Failed.
He was, failed.
And he was leading now.
Yes. Well, in 1853, he was told by his superior officer, stop drinking or resign. Grant said, if my drinking becomes a problem, rest assured I will resign. And a month later, he gets caught drunk on duty, so he had to resign.
Yeah, real quick, it became a problem, bud. So that's why we were warning you about it. We were telling you, it's already a problem. We weren't saying if it becomes one. It was already a problem. Next time you get caught, you're gone. So that's what happened.
Yep. He's also a failed farmer where he builds a very ugly log cabin and couldn't keep it afloat, so whoopsies. He then becomes a mediocre businessman at his daddy's leather goods store because he's not so great on his own, so he goes to work for his daddy's company. He does okay.
At least he did okay there instead of just driving that into the ground as well.
Yeah, he does okay there, and then of course, war is declared, and he decides, what, time to dust off these officers' bars and get back to work.
Yeah, he's I'm gonna go back to the only thing I know how to do. Poorly.
Yeah, and I think he graduated 30th out of 50th or something like that in his at West Point. So it's not like he was even
top 10 of the bottom half. Not bad.
Top 10 of the bottom half. Yeah, there we go. The Army of Mississippi would be led by General Albert Sidney Johnson with 40,355 men. So one of the only battles right at the start where it was pretty even size-wise between the two armies.
Yeah, usually it's one is outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1 at least. And they have to try to defend or attack or whatever. So this is an even battle at least.
At the start, nice. Yeah. At least on April 6th, it's an even battle.
2 days.
Can you guess? Can you guess Johnston's occupation there, Johnny?
Farmer.
Nah, damn it, career military.
Damn.
He's a career military. He actually would wind up fighting for the Texas independence during the Texan Revolution against the Mexico. He would fight in the Mexican-American War, and he would also fight in the Utah War, which, if you're a regular
Hey,
listener to us, you learned about that a while ago.
yeah,
So
I've heard
that's
about
where,
that.
that's where we fought about, we fought the crazy Mormons. So let's a little background information about the war, or not the war, but the battle here of Shiloh and how it happened. So the Union's overall strategy for the entire war was the Anaconda Plan, where they would blockade the coastline and then take over control of the Mississippi River, cutting the South in two, and then just kind of slowly strangling them from there. So as opposed to
Okay.
taking large swaths of territory, their main goal was control the key points of entry and exit and just starve the Confederates out.
Now, was this the very initial, or was this after they realized it was going to be a bit longer of a
No, this
war than
this was the very this
So
was
from the
even yeah,
beginning,
even from the beginning they were thinking about starving them out, blockading them. They just didn't know it would take years.
they didn't realize that they had dirt that they could grow some food in if they had to,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
hunt a deer or something.
So the with that plan, the first barrier to that is going to be pushing the dirty rebels out of the Columbus, Kentucky, which is one of their strongholds that they have right at the start of the war. Now, Kentucky's independent and did not secede, still a part of the Union, and is what's called a border state. But the Confederates do put a stronghold in Columbus, Kentucky, that the Union Army has to deal with, has to get rid of. And notice I did say dirty rebels, and I'm sick of hearing about it in the comments. Yes, I'm wearing a blue uniform, guys. I am a Northern propagandist. Deal with it.
Oh,
Whatever.
yeah. Speaking of, if you're watching this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave us a comment. We love to read them. Like this one from DMag. These guys suck.
Yeah, appreciate
So
it.
leave us a comment. Tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think. I don't care. So the first barrier was, like I said, Columbus, Kentucky, and this was done in spectacular fashion when Grant would take Fort Henry and Fort Donelson from the Dirty Rebels and demand their unconditional surrender,
There we
earning him
go.
the nickname Unconditional Surrender Grant. And this is where he becomes really popular and shows that he's actually one of the more, at least he has the cojones to fight the Dirty Rebels as opposed to just forming a great army and sitting there and waiting.
Right. So I think that's great, and I think it's obviously a good thing he did. What a lame nickname though.
Unconditional Surrender Grant.
It doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
Well, he will eventually earn the nickname the Butcher Grant,
See,
but that's a
that's
little
better.
bit later.
It's better.
Yeah, that's a little bit later. With Kentucky out of the way, who better to send on to the invasion of Tennessee but, you guessed it, recently appointed Major General C.F. Smith, not Grant, who just took over all the
Wait.
forts.
Wait, hold up. So Grant was a mess. He messed up, got a little drunk, but then he came back on his little round two and kicked some ass, and now
Yeah, you think
like,
he'd be?
are they giving him a break? Like, hey, go rest up, pal. Like what?
So
What
what
are they
happens is Major General Henry Halleck, who's in command of the Department of Missouri, he doesn't really like Grant all that much, and he says,
Petty little
Grant, why don't
politics stuff.
yeah,
Is that
petty
what
little
this
politics
is?
stuff. And he says, Grant, why don't you stay in Fort Henry? But by March 4th, Grant was restored to full command after Lincoln spoke to Halleck and said, yeah, that guy knows you. He fights.
Yeah.
You put him in. Yeah,
Let's
we
use
want
that.
that guy.
Let's use that valuable piece that we have instead of putting it into a fort in Kentucky somewhere.
So Grant was taken, was given command over the Army of Tennessee and was set up for the invasion of Tennessee River. Grant would leave Fort Hood and arrive in Savannah, Tennessee on March 14th, where he would station 5 of his divisions at Pittsburgh Landing and the 6th Division at Crump's Landing, which is a reserve, it's in reserve about 4 miles away from Pittsburgh Landing. At the same time, Halleck would send Major General Don Carlos Buell and his Army of the Ohio, which is about 17,918 men, to Savannah to reinforce Grant. So the whole plan is these 2 large armies will link up and then just obliterate Tennessee and take it.
Yeah, and that's how you take things back.
And that's how we take things back. Johnson plan, Confederate general, is, in late March, Johnson and Grant's armies were numerically similar. So right up leading to the battle, they're about the same size. So Johnson knows that Buell at some point is going to be on his way to reinforce Grant. And as opposed to just letting Grant sit there and wait for reinforcements, Johnson's plan is I'm going to quickly push Grant out of Tennessee before reinforcements arrive.
Seems smart.
which is smart. But to make matters worse, Johnson's army was ill-equipped. A large part of his army was actually armed with guns brought from home, including shotguns, 1812 flintlock muskets, 1812 percussion conversions, Kentucky long rifles, hunting rifles, and knives.
Some
So
sticks too. Did they bring any rocks with them? Did they have a satchel full of rocks?
They did, in fact, have several guys carrying pikes, and I shit you not, pikes.
Those guys have had those waiting to use them for their entire lives, and they're like, "Oh yes, we finally get to use our pikes. I'm gonna put a head on it."
So, although some regiments did actually get equipped with the newly found Enfield rifles from the dirty British, who were gladly selling guns to both sides. The English were like,
I can't
"Hey,
blame 'em.
you guys want guns? North, you want guns? Here's some Enfield muskets. Oh, South, you want some guns? Here's some Enfield muskets. We don't care. We're just making money."
I mean, all right, but to be fair to Britain, if your kids come up to you and they're like, "Hey, I want to excommunicate. We're on our own peace," and then they start fighting with each other, and both of them want to just start buying stuff from you, sell it to them.
To be
Screw
fair,
'em.
pretty much every European nation was selling their junk to us because
Why
we
not?
were in desperate need of guns. I mean, the French were selling it, the Belgians were in on it, the Germans were in on it. Everybody was kind of selling their crap to us because, well, we needed it and we were
Go ahead
buying
and fight
it, so-
yourselves. Don't fight us. This is great.
Pretty much. Johnson's army was also less combat experienced than Grant's. Of Grant's 62 infantry regiments, 32 were actually combat experienced, and most of his artillery and cavalry that he did have was also combat veterans. So
All right.
they're good to go. And Grant also had some pretty dope gunboats. So
Oh hell yeah,
Way to go.
gunboats. And
Yeah,
I
gunboats.
I didn't know. I knew like so. I imagine like on the river or something. This is inland. I knew that they had like ships and stuff, but I didn't realize what kind of guns would they have on a gunboat of that size.
big ass cannons that are capable, like probably around 20-pound Parrots, I would imagine. Rifled guns that are pretty good to
All right.
have a good punch home. And by 20-pound, I mean the bullet weighs 20 pounds.
Right,
The gun
yes.
is substantially heavier than that.
I've learned that much anyway.
Yes, yeah. Johnson's plan was to move quickly, hit Grant's left, separating him from his gunboats and cutting him off from the river retreat, thus hoping that there would be a full surrender of Grant's entire army.
Yeah.
Again, not necessarily a bad plan.
I'm gonna guess that didn't happen.
Well, we'll get you jumping the gun like always, Johnny. The battle was supposed to take place on the 4th of April, but heavy storms delayed the march, and men got lost in the woods. Literally,
shoot.
like, going, where are we?
Like how
Huge
many?
Yeah, well,
Because these are armies marching
Yeah,
through
these are
it, though,
armies, so
right?
it's hundreds.
Yeah.
On top of that, there were huge traffic jams as the roads were nothing but mud pits. So
Yeah.
moving artillery, moving wagons was not very easy. So it took 3 days for the army to move 23 miles.
Oh my gosh.
That should have been done in a day, but
Yeah,
that just tells you
that's-
how bad the road conditions were and how bad the weather was.
Oh, and I'm guessing they're having to every 10 feet, get their wagons unstuck from some muddy rut or hole or something in the
Yeah.
road.
And all
and
the
then-
artillery pieces and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
good
Yep.
God.
Yep. To make matters worse, their discipline was
I mean,
wasn't great, and the army was given enough food for a 5-day march, but they ate it all before
yeah.
that 5 days was expected.
Once again, armies are made up of college-aged kids. And especially in this one, very inexperienced college-aged kids. A lot of whom are just like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I want to fight a dirty rebel. And they signed up. Or, yeah, I really like owning people. And then they signed up. But it's still, both sides. Just a bunch of college-age kids.
Yeah. And so they're running low on food already, and they only had basically enough food to have the march and have the battle and then go home. And the march already took 3 days longer than it was supposed
Right,
to.
yeah.
So,
that
that
hurts.
that's not done very well. The march is supposed to be done in silence, but soldiers were proudly banging their drums, blasting bugle calls, and shooting their guns off because, they're hungry and hey, look, a bird.
And again,
Boom!
18 to 25-year-olds.
Multiple small skirmishes occur between both sides, with both sides taking prisoners, and on the 5th, the armies were actually less than 3 miles away from each other.
So these small skirmishes, are these just the people wandering about in the woods? lost and then running into
Well,
another
yeah,
group, and then
partly, but it's also like, the Union does have scouts out, and the Confederate lines will put scouts out in advance of their army's movements, and
sure,
these are just the skirmishes are just scouts that happen to run
okay,
into each other.
gotcha.
Second in command of the Army of the Mississippi was P.T. Beauregard, who tried to convince Johnston to call off the attack as surprise was surely gone. Like, at this point, we can't, like, they have to know we're here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we've shot at them.
We've
there's
let them
that,
know. Yeah,
and we popped off guns killing birds and deer, and
they've been alerted to our presence.
and if you were ever in high school band, drummers can't not bang on shit. So you got your drum line that's just doing its fucking thing and
Yeah.
banging on everything. Like, they know we're here.
They're having drum. They're having drum battles. It's like the movie Drumline, 18.
Yeah, yep.
60,
1862 version. Yeah,
62 version.
62. There you go.
Yeah, I got it.
So Beauregard's trying to convince Johnson not to attack, and he says, surely the Union has to be entrenched at this point. Like, they're waiting for the reinforcements.
Yeah.
They have to be entrenched. We're going to go up against an army that's ready to go. It's heavily defended. Johnson said, I don't care if they are defended. I will fight them, quote, if 1,000,000 men were there. So,
I mean, was he
little,
suicidal?
I think
did somebody check on this guy's mental health? He sounds depressed.
I think he's a little ballsy at this point. Like, I don't think you're going to attack him with 1,000,000 men, especially when you guys have... They literally have muskets from the 1812 war.
Flintlocks.
Flintlock muskets.
I mean, but they're accurate, so you get the first shot off, and it's like a sniper rifle. You nail that first shot, right? Then you have the time to reload.
No, the flintlock hunting rifles, the Kentucky long rifles, yes, those were accurate. The 1812 muskets were smoothbores. Not accurate. But somehow, miraculously, the Union Army was neither fully aware of how close the enemy was, nor were they entrenched, because Grant felt his army needed more rifle practice and used the time drilling his soldiers on accuracy, precision, rifle drills, as opposed to entrenching, because Grant is an offensive general. He is not a defensive-minded general. So his strategy here is attack first. So he's trying to prepare his troops for an offensive as opposed to digging in and waiting for his reinforcements.
Right, that's fine. But so there seems to be a theme of generals being just blissfully unaware of what's going on right around them. We ran into the same thing in our Battle of Crater episode, where they were digging tunnels underneath them. And they're like, I think I heard some noises. And they're like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then they blew them all up.
It's like, surely the enemy can't be possibly coming from there. But
it's just like this.
I don't know if it's arrogance, if it's overconfidence, or what exactly it is. This is I like Grant, but there is really no excuse for his actions leading up to this battle. Yeah, it's a massive oversight. Yeah. On the morning of April 6th, in the early morning, Johnson's army was formed and ready to go for their assault in the wee little early mornings before dawn.
Always.
Miraculously, despite their bad noise discipline, Grant, like I said, was unaware that he was about to be attacked. He was afraid that he would provoke an attack by sending out the scouts and skirmishers, and he didn't want to provoke attack. He wanted to wait for Buell's men to come.
And so that's why he did it. That's why he didn't know.
So he did not send out any.
I don't want warning of this. I want to be surprised.
Yeah.
Let him surprise me.
So he didn't send out any patrols. He sent out no scouts. He had no vedettes, which are mounted sentries who would it's their job to be on horseback way in advance of the army.
Yeah.
And I see guys, and then haul ass back to the front lines and be like, hey, they're coming.
The British are coming.
The British are
coming. Yeah.
All that fun stuff.
The dirty rebels are coming. The dirty rebels are coming.
Yep. Which they might as well be British, just as bad.
I mean, we were the traitors with the British, though.
Yeah, I guess we're the British.
Runs in the blood.
In any case, he was also concentrating, like I said, on the rifle drill instead of having his men prepare defensive positions. So, he even wrote a letter to General Halleck on April 5th that said, I have scarcely the faintest idea of an attack being made upon us, but will be prepared with such a thing to take place. So, no, you weren't.
You
were neither. You're right. You weren't aware, and you were not prepared either. Though you're lying.
So this is like in Skyrim when you get a bounty going on one of your characters in one of those cities, and then you run into the town and you go to the training grounds, and they're all just like sitting there like shooting their arrows at the things and doing their dummy stuff. This is what was happening. They were practicing their rifle shots, and they got attacked, and they're like, oh, what a surprise! And then they're just they're obviously hosed.
Yeah, pretty much. Grant and Sherman both thought an attack from the south would be unlikely, and so they were concentrating more on the west. So what little defensive positions were coming were sort of on the west, but again, they weren't digging in. They weren't really preparing for anything.
Right. It was this is where you might set up if we were to prepare appropriately for this battle, but we're not going to do that. So just hang out in the tent.
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, a Colonel Jesse Appler of the 53rd Ohio Infantry warned Sherman and said there is an impending attack coming from the south. They're there. They're right there. And Sherman says, and I quote, "Take your damned regiment back to Ohio. There are no Confederates closer than Corinth."
But what how do you, what kind of, how... Why would you call him a liar? This guy is saying, I have information. And he's like, no, I can hear it. I put my ear to the ground. I know there's nobody. You smell that? Yeah, there's nobody that close. I don't smell anything.
And oh boy, was Sherman and Grant
wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong. You're wrong.
So there was an attack that this person saw with their eyes and reported to their superior officers, and then got ignored or made fun of or dismissed. Yeah. That's great.
Dismissed. Around 3 a.m., a Colonel Everett Peabody, concerned about the reports of Confederates near them, and of course hearing noises, sent a patrol of 250 men with the 25th Missouri and the 12th Michigan, and they came across a patrol of Confederates who fled into the woods. Yeah. Around 5:15 a.m., they actually wind up engaging in a skirmish with them that would last about an hour, which gave the Union at least a little bit of time to go, something screwy's going on.
Yeah.
But Colonel,
so a skirmish, is that just a small miniature battle? Or
it's like 300 people popping off shots at 300 people.
Blindly shooting and trying to get away?
Yeah, pretty much. Peabody would actually be chastised for sending out a patrol because surely he must have provoked an attack, and and that was a violation of Grant's order. Why did you send out a patrol? You weren't supposed to go find the enemy.
Yeah, we didn't want to know where they were.
We didn't want you to warn us.
Have you not been paying attention to my entire strategy for this? I want to be surprised. I haven't had a surprise birthday party in 48 years, and I need that.
Well, he's about to get a surprise birthday party because, Johnson's army's on the way, but Johnson's army is also, like I said, not combat experienced, poorly equipped. They're not properly aligned for an assault, which reduces its effectiveness.
I mean, go ahead and say it. They're a bunch of yokels.
They're a bunch of yokels. Johnson also has no real specific battle plan. He telegraphed President Davis, which is the Confederate president, that Polk will hit the Union on the left, Bragg's going to hit the Union on the center, and Hardee's going to hit them on the right, and we'll hold Breckinridge in reserve. He then told Breckinridge...
That's a plan.
It's sort of.
We're gonna attack from all sides except for one.
Yeah. He then told Breckinridge to deploy the men so he could lead the assault from the front, essentially putting Breckinridge in charge of the overall troop movement at this point. And Breckinridge thought, to hell with Johnson's plans, and he wanted to send wave after wave to attack the Union line instead.
Why do they do this? Like, they don't have communication. Everybody has to be on the same page. You can't just leave the meeting and be like, I'm gonna go off and do whatever I want. Because screw that. Because they have to assume that you're doing the thing that you were supposed to do. And when you don't do that thing, it kind of, especially plans that weren't made well anyway, it kind of ruins them.
Well, it sure does. So the Breckinridge's plan of just throwing guys in and one after another starts confusing units as they become, like, you get like the 4th Tennessee with the 12th Maine, and they're all like what the hell? What are you guys doing here? And you can't,
why are you here?
and you definitely can't mix Mississippi boys with Louisiana boys. They don't like to play together very well, and they're now mixing, and they're doing all kinds of squirrely things with the river rats, and we don't, you know what? we gotta take a step back. So the next battle plan here was to make zones of responsibility. So basically, each commanding officer would be given a zone of responsibility. So you're
like
responsible
that,
for the
yeah,
left, you're
yeah.
responsible for the
Yeah,
center.
zone
Kind of
defense. Yeah.
going back to the original plan that was there. By 7:30 in the morning, Beauregard is going to send Breckinridge. He's like, enough of your crap. So he sends Breckinridge and Polk up into the front lines and had Polk and Hardee on the Union rights, with Bragg in the center and Breckinridge on the Union left. So we've changed their positions around a little bit, but at least we now have some sense of where everybody's supposed to be on the battlefield.
Right. People have some sort of direction and order as far as where to be, what to do.
Exactly. Now, to fight the Confederates' crap plan and equipment and green troops and really confusing of what the hell they're even doing,
Right,
the
yeah.
Union troops do start to break and run for the river. Experienced troops do attempt on the Union side to defend where they can, but the majority of the Union line was being pushed and taking heavy casualties. Sherman, who did not prepare his troops for battle, would actually redeem himself by rallying the lines, and he would be seen on multiple occasions riding right in the front line, like rallying his troops, directing them where to go with the battle.
All right.
He would get wounded multiple occasions, minor, but he would be wounded on multiple occasions and have 3 horses shot out from under him. At some point, if I'm a horse and I see this guy coming, like, no.
I mean, I know the saying is you got to get back up on that horse, but I don't know, after 2.
Yeah, three horses shot out from under him.
Fool
Dude,
me
don't-
once.
Just walk.
But, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. I'm going to stop getting on a horse and go into the front lines.
Sherman would eventually get his line to stabilize around Shiloh Church by the mid-morning, but the rest of the Union line was steadily being pushed back till about noon. At this point, as the Union troops are falling back and we're getting into Union camps, the Confederate troops are getting into Union camps, several things start to happen. Confederate troops start to ditch their crappy flintlock muskets for the good Springfield guns that the Union guys have.
Yep.
The rifle guns are like, that's a lot.
Cha-ching!
That's a lot better. And they have bullets.
Huh! What a novel idea.
To make matters worse, though, the advance began to slow about 11 because, they're hungry. And they're now in the Union camps that were preparing the breakfast. That's just sitting there smelling pretty good. The bacon's ready to go.
Oh, you smell that? Yeah.
So they start to stop and raid the Union camps and eat. So
yes.
that's
how you
slowing
do
down
it.
their that's slowing down their advance
Turn
pretty
into
good.
a good old bacon raid.
Now, when this battle kicks off, Grant is actually 10 miles downriver at the start of the battle with his reserve units of Lew Wallace, and he would rush back to Pittsburgh Landing and tell Lew Wallace, get your ass there, reinforce Sherman's flank. But Lewis is slow at moving out. He's not taking the river path. He's going overland. And by the time he gets down to where the battlefield is, he's got a decision to make, because where Sherman isn't where Sherman is,
Right, yeah.
because Sherman's retreated now from Shiloh Church.
Bye.
So he can either choose to hit the Confederates in their rear, which would have been the smart move, or he can say, nah, I'm not going to do that, and turn his army around and march to where Sherman is now, which is what he chooses to do. So
No,
thank
I
you.
want a fair head-to-head battle. Let's meet up and do it the right way.
So thank
How
you, Lew
honorable.
Wallace, for not helping at all this first day. So he won't really be involved in the battle at all until the next day. Spoiler, there's a next day. So I can't talk about the Battle of Shiloh without talking about Hornets' Nest, because if you've ever learned about the Battle of Shiloh, you always hear about the Hornets' Nest.
Apparently,
So
I've never learned about the Battle of
You've
Shiloh.
never learned about the Battle of Shiloh because you've never heard about the Hornets' Nest. So the strongest defended position in the Union line was along a road which is called the Sunken Road now. This road wasn't sunken. It's a quarter of an inch lower than the ground. So it's not like it's in Fredericksburg where there's literally a sunken road behind a
Right.
stone wall.
No, it's
no. This is just a paved road.
It's a bad ditch.
It's a bad ditch, and there's a field. There's a field on opposite sides, and this becomes the most defended, heated, contested zone of the battle, and it gets the nickname Hornet's Nest because, you kick it and you stir up a hornet's nest, and people start shooting everything. High casualty zone. It is believed that the Confederates would actually charge this position 8 to 14 times and be repulsed. So heavy, heavy casualties.
Oh man, that's a no thank you.
So General Benjamin Prentiss is the first Union lines that actually get attacked at the start of the battle. He consolidates his command with the at the Union Center at the Hornets' Nest with General William Wallace. Freedom! Not the same guy though, because he actually goes by W.H.L. Wallace, probably because he doesn't want to be confused for William Wallace and the whole freedom thing from the Scottish. But they consolidate their position on the center. From 9 a.m. for the next 7 hours, Prentiss and Wallace are hit very, very hard with a valiant defense, and it's just repulse after repulse attack after repulse attack. Casualties are extremely high in the sector, and as the Union lines on their flanks retreat back, because the center's holding strong, but the flanks aren't. They're pulling back. So every inch the flank gives exposes that center even more.
Yeah, they're basically folding back into a circle and just leaving more and more surface area for the Confederates.
And slowly the Confederates are surrounding the Hornets' Nest, but they're still holding strong. It actually takes them being encircled for William Wallace to, he'll wind up being mortally wounded when he tries to break out from the encirclement. He gets on his horse, he wears his blue makeup, and he says, "It's our Freedom Day!" And he does his big valiant speech, and he goes and he gets shot and dies.
Oh. But
yeah, he gets shot and dies.
And from the people who were circling him, they shot him.
Yeah, and then that starts to
hard to see that
really,
coming though.
It starts to, when you take out one of the leaders, you start to confuse the whole thing, and several regiments start to surrender because they are being surrounded. They don't know what
because they watched some dude charge into a crowd that just shot him dead, and they're like, "Well, guess that's our option."
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you. The final nail in the coffin is when the Confederate artillery under Brigadier General Daniel Ruggles, he's going to assemble 50 cannons, which to this date is the largest artillery pieces assembled in one spot ever in the United States history, up to this point. He's going to assemble those 50 guns, and he's going to bring them as close as he can to the lines and basically shoot into the Union lines at point blank with canister, just ripping them to shreds. So...
yeah, that sounds unpleasant.
No thanks, I don't want to be there. After 7 hours...
How do I surrender, please?
Yeah, right? Well, and after 7 hours of defense, the apprentice is like, yeah, I'm good. We're good. We're surrendering. He's going to surrender the remaining 2,200 to 2,400 men. But he did buy enough time for Grant to set up a new defensive position along Pittsburgh Landing, which is north of the original positions. Around the same time as his surrender, an aide to General Johnson noticed General Johnson kind of looking a little pale, and he's kind of like slumped down in his saddle a little bit. And the aide looks at Johnson and says, "Dude, are you okay? Like, are you wounded? Did you get shot? Like, what's up, buddy?"
Yeah.
And Johnson's like, "Yeah, I got shot in the leg a while ago. I think it's kind of bad."
So you think that blood loss might be getting bad in 1862?
So he gets off the horse and he gets laid down next to a tree where the aide goes for a surgical help. But before the surgeon's able to get there, Johnson has bled out. He was actually shot earlier in the morning in the leg, but didn't know how bad it was because the blood was just pouring into his boot. Yeah. And so nobody saw him bleeding. Nobody saw like it as bad, so nobody paid attention to it. And it wasn't until Johnson was like, on the verge of death through blood loss that
see, I thought they put him down next to a tree because that was a tree he picked to be buried under, because obviously they're not going to be able to do anything to save his life at this point.
Nobody at no point, even when it was it was discovered that he was shot in the leg, like nobody thought like put a tourniquet on it or something.
What the hell's a tourniquet? You mean a saw?
Damn
it! You want me to put a saw on
it? Well, they do know what a tourniquet is, but yes. They would have just cut off his... Yeah, well, they would have just cut off his leg. Beauregard is going to wind up taking over command, and he's in the rear of the Confederate line, so he is slow to gain word of A, his promotion, and B, what the hell's even going on. He's looking at the battle from the rear, trying to...
What an awful thing to find out in the middle of a battle. Oh, yeah, you're in charge now of this mess. Good luck.
You're promoted.
You had no decisions up until this point, but now you're going to have to live with what decisions were made and then... make it better.
So basically, by 6 p.m., the Union line has a new defensive position around Pittsburgh Landing. Beauregard's now in command, and things start to slow down. The Confederates are a bit
Running
too
out of
preoccupied.
ammo?
Yeah, a bit too preoccupied eating and scavenging the battlefield for better guns and equipment.
I mean, that's
And,
fair though.
Which is
I
fair.
don't blame
No,
them.
that's fair. No, I don't blame them either.
Find
and the
your
Union,
equipment.
and the Union is now going, hey, we should probably dig in. or form some kind of defensive position or do something.
Hey guys, I've gotten all my practice shots in on the range. Do we want to start preparing for this battle that's going to happen 18 hours ago?
Now, you'd think this would be the perfect time, since the battle kind of petered out, to get some rest and relax a little bit before what is inevitably going to be another battle. Although, to be fair, all the battles we've talked about up to this point, when this happens to the Union and they get pushed, usually that means the battle's over and the Union's just going to go and retreat.
Right.
But we do have Grant who's leading, so that might not happen.
So he's like, I want to keep going. We're gonna.
Yeah. So
I like to fight.
You would still think it would be time to rest, but instead, what happens is a thunderstorm's going to decide to roll in at 11 o'clock at night, and just soak and keep everybody awake with noise. Plus, the Union gunboats are really excited about their cannons, and they're just going to bombard the shit out of the Confederate positions all night long. So
In the middle, just firing off cannons into wherever the hell they might be.
Yeah, and
Find
you know
a
it's dark,
campfire
so
or whatever.
yeah, you know it's dark, so they're not really. They're just like, ah!
Yeah.
blind shooting. Maybe we'll hit some. I bet a couple of deer probably got hit, but
Oh man, can you imagine being a squirrel in a tree and you're just sitting there in your little nest or whatever? All of a sudden, a 20-pound ball comes ripping through your whole entire life.
Now, over the course of the night, the Union Army is being reinforced. We have Lew Wallace, who does arrive, and we have, Buell's Army of Ohio with its 17,000 men coming in. So we've got fresh troops.
Guys, we made it.
Wallace, and they're all there ready to, they're reinforcing. So the Union Army starts out about 40,000. We get some good heavy casualties, so they're probably down to more like a 30,000 effective fighting force at this point. But hell, they just got 20,000 new men, so
Back up to 50, 55 maybe. Who knows?
we're good. The Confederates, on the other hand, they're not reinforced. They're not given new supplies.
Well, they took some new supplies, though.
They took some new supplies. They did. But they're not, actually getting a shipment of ammunition. They're not getting
bullets.
cases of supplies and cases of bullets. They're not being reinforced. So that's not good for them.
No,
They're also not getting new troops. And so their effective fighting force is down to about 28,000 now.
I mean, they're
Because,
the come with what brung you type.
Because not
fighting
only did they suffer casualties and suffered heavy casualties, they've also lost people. Like, people have gotten lost
Just gone.
In the woods. Other
woods.
people just left.
Well,
we don't know what the hell's going on.
well, and
So they're
everybody
down to
knows that bears were much more prevalent. They probably lost at least half those people to bear attacks.
To bears. So the night of the 6th, most of the Confederate army was camped in previous Union camps. So they're like, "Hey, look, the tents are already set up. We'll just hang out here."
Hey, it's kind of
Well,
like
which is
what we
they
did
do.
when we found the country.
And pretty much. Damn it, Johnny. So they set up in the camps of Sherman and Prentiss, the former camps there, but they don't bother setting up a formal battle line because Beauregard, his idea is that he's just going to do a full scale. He's just going to continue from what.
Keep on charging.
Full scale assault the next morning. So he doesn't bother putting up any defenses. He doesn't bother coming up with a solid defensive line himself. Just says, "Hey guys, bushwhack where you can.
We're
get up in the
going
morning.
after it."
We'll continue the attack tomorrow morning." The most Union generals, as I said at this point, would have been spending the night retreating. But Grant says, I got reinforcements.
Love fighting.
I love fighting. What we're gonna do? I got a great battle plan for you. It's a brilliant battle plan. Here's what we're gonna do. Everybody, we're gonna pick up our guns and we're gonna go forward. Go for it. So everybody on the entire line, go forward. Shooty, bang, bang the bad guys. So on the morning of April 7th, Grant orders an all-out assault. Now, Grant and Buell's armies still maintain, Grant's overall of the Army of Tennessee, Buell's over all of the Army of Ohio, and they're not really coordinating with each other. But they at least agree, like, we're just going to go forward and just
Yeah, they can
we'll
agree
shoot
on that.
whatever's
Yeah.
shoot whatever's in front of us.
Shoot the bad guy.
So they're not really coordinated beyond the divisional level, but screw it. At 5:30 in the morning, fighting kicks off with basically an all-out assault on the Confederate lines, who are caught very ill-prepared and not ready for the Union. You guys can actually attack?
Guys,
what is this?
Hold up. We were going to start this in an hour. We were going to do the same thing. You're early. What are you doing?
They have no real organization beyond the brigade level, and there was no real unit cohesion because the Louisiana boys got in it with the Mississippi boys again, and they were doing all kinds of crazy things to pigs, and we don't, they're just a little bit preoccupied. In fact, it takes 2 hours for Beauregard to find General Polk and get his men from the reserves up. Get back! Get back! They're attacking us! We gotta go!
They have
you!
guns! They have guns!
By mid-morning, General Crittenden has actually retaken the Hornet's Nest, so pew pew pew! Union!
All right. Got it back.
Briefly, the Confederates are going to counterattack near Shiloh Church and push back the Union assault, but ultimately it's going to be outflanked by Grant's counter attacks.
Right, yeah.
So, there's that. Grant himself would actually come under heavy fire while riding from flank to flank, checking the lines. Grant's, leading from the front as much as he can, and actually winds up getting shot at. Although his ponies are safe, he doesn't get any horses shot out from.
Well, that's lucky. Probably because they're using a bunch of smoothbore muzzle loaders and muskets or whatever to fire at him, and so it's just a bunch of shrapnel going over the head or into the dirt 20 feet in front of him.
Pretty much. By early morning, Beauregard has realized that he's lost the initiative and has already lost over 10,000 men and has little to no ammunition left, and he's also out of food.
There it is.
So he says, all right, guys, we're going to get the hell out of here because...
Guess we're done. What are you going to do?
This is the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl, starting off the first half, 21 points up.
Yeah, hell yeah, we got this, guys.
Quickly in the second half, realizing, wait, there's still
I gotta keep going. Yeah, we're only halfway done, and the points that I scored aren't gonna be enough. Are you sure?
Well, they sure weren't. Breckinridge.
We wouldn't want to play any defense right now, maybe, and dig in, would we?
No. Beauregard is going to put Breckinridge with 5,000 men in command to cover the retreat of the army. Breckinridge would hold his position till about 5 p.m. in the afternoon, where he's going to withdraw his forces himself. Exhausted, the Union troops don't pursue beyond their original positions of the 5th, so basically they take over all the lost ground and say, yeah, man, I'm tired.
Well, that's good enough. I'm tired. I think I want to go home now.
Home now.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
And they do. On April 8th.
So this whole thing was for nothing happened, right? Like this was just.
This is a Union victory, but
but nothing. They didn't gain anything.
Nothing. No gain. No. This is pretty much every battle that we've talked about so far.
It's just
no gain. No ground gained and no ground really lost. And
everybody shot at each other until they got to a point, and then they're like, should we keep going and maybe try to take more? And they're like, no.
20,000 casualties.
You don't understand how this works here. We just shoot at each other until somebody runs out of ammo, and then we're done.
This is just a fun little history fact for all you racists out there. On April 8th, Grant is going to send Sherman along the Corinth Road to make sure that you'll get there. Hold on a second, Johnny. He's going to send Sherman along the Corinth Road to make sure the Confederates have actually retreated and not just withdrawn and regrouped for a counterattack.
Right? Yeah. Make sure they're not going to come back.
Make sure they're not going to pull a Grant on them. You don't want that. This led to a skirmish called the Fallen Timbers, where Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest,
from Savannah, Georgia, apparently.
Nathan
the way that rolled off your tongue.
Forrest. I don't know where he's from, but Nathan Bedford Forrest, future Grand Wizard of the KKK, It's where I said the
Future
racist
Grand
phrase.
Wizard. So he's got some aspiring
KKK doesn't
to do
exist yet.
still.
KKK doesn't exist yet. Yeah.
Right,
He's gonna-
because
he's gonna
KKK was
help.
just literally your white America at this point. It was
Yeah,
just-
right. Yeah, this is just the South. It's just the South. At Bedford Forest, with your little, I'm tired, I'm gonna go home now. Your Forrest Gump
Yeah,
reference. That's
yeah.
why I'm bringing this up. Is Forrest Gump? That was his great granddaddy, I think.
Oh,
Like, I was named after my granddaddy who liked to wear ghost cloths around. Yeah, that's well. So this little small skirmish kicks off, and Nathan Bedford Forrest is on his pony and out kind of alone when the Union soldiers realize that he's alone, and they start yelling, "Shoot him! Shoot him and his horse!" Like, I mean, come on,
the horse?
Is the horse racist? Like, was a horse wearing a hood? Like, how do you know the horse is bad?
I mean, I guess maybe so we can't get away, but come on, the horse had nothing to do with it.
One Union soldier actually gets up point blank to him and puts the gun up into his hip and pulls the trigger and shoots Nathan Bedford Forrest in the hip.
In the
Damn near-
hip? Point
in the
blank?
hip, damn near paralyzing him because it goes really close to his spine. But Nathan Bedford Forrest, he's able to maintain on his horse and ride away and not die. So thank you, Union soldier, for not shooting him in the head. He's
I mean, a
point
couple of
blank.
things. A couple of things here. First off, yeah, if you're gonna shoot someone point blank, why the hip? What are you doing there? And then,
Although,
second
to be
off,
fair,
could you imagine the pain
Of that.
of riding a horse after being shot in the hip?
Yeah, that's not comfortable. Although I will tell you, if anybody decides to shoot me point blank, could you please shoot me in the hip so I can get a free
Get
hip
a new one.
replacement?
Yeah,
get a new one. You would be doing me a favor at this point.
What you need to do is you just need to have an accidental discharge when you're pulling out one of your
holstering?
6
Yeah.
shooters or whatever and catch yourself.
My
But
little-
use
my
your
gigantic cannon.
use a smaller caliber.
Small. You don't want. Yeah, I don't
Not
think
that.
that this isn't. You don't want this one's too big.
I wouldn't.
This one's going to hurt a little bit. This little skirmish does confirm that the Confederates have in fact done a full retreat, and they're not in any
Okay.
position to engage the Union Army any more than they've already have. So the aftermath, Johnny, we're up to the aftermath. We've done it. We've done it. It's not even a super long episode today.
That's
We done it.
great. Yeah, good work keeping it short.
Grant is going to be vilified in Union papers because he should be for
Right.
his actions on the 5th. Like you did
should
nothing
be-
to prepare. You shouldn't have been caught off guard. You should have had defensive positions. Like what were you thinking? Like he should have been vilified
Yeah,
for
people
this.
should be furious.
They actually do run to Lincoln and demand that Grant be pulled from because in America we're anything but very situational. He's our hero when he's
Oh, yeah.
unconditional surrender Grant. But then because he's lazy asshole Grant who wanted to do gun range day, we don't like him anymore.
Right? Yeah. Have you watched sports in America? Like
Right.
that's what it is. It's hero to villain
No,
because
Johnny,
of a field goal kicker. Like,
I have been I have been a proud fan of the Raiders my entire life,
Right.
and only 3 of them have been good years.
No, and that's fine, but the way that you either talk about your coach or your kicker or your quarterback or whatever else depends on
it's-
completely unrelated circumstances.
That's true. That's true. They actually call for his removal, but Lincoln famously states, "I cannot spare this man. He fights."
Yeah, I mean, he's getting stuff done.
Yeah, like he did get his ass kicked, but then he regrouped and
Yeah, and
he
let's hear
stayed
that,
and he fought,
Let's hear that
and he-
casualty report. How'd he do?
and he still won. So
Yeah,
all
how'd he
right,
do?
so casualty. Well, wait, before we get to casualty reports, I do want to say
I already
that
teased it once.
I know he did he is credited with like the deserved criticism, but Buell's actions are credited with the success on the second day. They really shouldn't. I mean, it was still Grant's plan, so he should recoup some of his history hindsight. Grant should come out even at this battle.
So
Sherman-
So you wanted to take that little aside just to try to save some face
Some-
for your
I
boy,
like Grant.
your
I
boy
like
Grant. There,
My drunken
making
I like
excuses
Grant.
for him, trying to give him credit that he wasn't
I
giving.
am. This is
Oh,
my
what a
union propaganda.
fanboy! Oh my
I am.
god! Oh,
Sherman is
get a
gonna-
room.
Sherman is going to arise to the level of fame because he gets his, dude got 3 horses shot out from under him, and he got the balls to get on a 4th horse.
I mean, really, though.
So, yeah. And he's going to, in the future go on to burn some stuff. So,
Can't wait to hear what.
yeah, right. The aftermath, Johnny. Casualty reports. Casualty reports. So out of the Union total, 63,000 engaged, 1,754 are going to be killed, 8,408 wounded, 2,885 missing, although most of those were captured by apprentices surrendering.
So it's like 12,000 total casualties.
A little over, a little over. The Confederate side, out of the 40,355 they engaged with, 1,728 are killed, 8,012 are wounded, and 959 captured. So minus the captured and missing, it's almost a wash.
Yeah, that's that's literally this whole 2-day battle of people running around the woods, getting lost and dying. That equated to no land gained or lost or anything else, cost a lot of people their lives on both sides pretty evenly.
Yeah. And here's why it's not really a wash, though, because out of those 63,000 soldiers that the Union has, they got like 63,000 more in Ohio,
Yeah.
so okay.
Right.
And out of those 40,000, that the Confederates have, that's it.
So the raw, so what you're saying, the raw numbers are the same, but those percentages,
But the impact,
when you look at the
impact of
whole,
those
it's
numbers,
way different. Yeah.
Because even and I can't stress this enough. This is 1862, April of 1862. The war is just a year old.
Yeah.
The Confederates don't have the manpower, don't have the guns, don't have the food. At the start.
Right. Well,
at the start.
at this point, they're in a situation where they haven't had a chance to ramp up anything, because they're not ramping anything up.
No, they don't have the industry to ramp.
Like
anything
not
up.
only do they not have it, they're not getting it. It's not like it's on its way. Wait 2 weeks for delivery. It's just
they order stuff from England. They order the guns from England, but the only way those guns can come in is through basically the Mississippi River.
right, which is why the North,
If
I
those-
imagine, closed everything off at the start.
yeah,
They're like,
if those,
let's stop that.
Yeah, if those English merchant ships can get through the blockade,
Disguise
which
themselves or whatever.
They
and
don't
through,
get.
yeah.
They don't all get through the blockade. So, yep. Spoiler alert:
go
it's
of
a
it.
war. In a war of attrition, you don't want to be the dirty rebels.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about Canadian cults.